Hello, it's me, the Avatar Fanatic, and today we will be talking about who I think is the best offensive bender. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to know when I upload more content. Now, let's get on to the video. First, we have to distinguish who is worthy to be on this list. I will pick 2 to 3 benders from each element that will qualify for this list. Avatars that are in this will qualify in their element discovered at birth, excluding their avatar state ability with the element. I will judge these characters on a variety of factors. Some of them may include prowess, battle IQ, firepower, bending talent, accuracy of attack, whether they get countered a lot. If they don't get countered a lot, that obviously means that their attacks are better, less vulnerable. Their ability to counterattack off of defense and dominance in battle with their attacks. For Earthbenders, I would say the best offensive benders are Kuvira, Kyoshi, and Bumi. Toph narrowly misses out, as I see her more as a defensive bender. Suyin and Lin miss out because they simply are not as skilled. We see Suyin beat Lin, although Lin was a little bit unwell, and Suyin get beat by Kuvira in their battle. Although that was a much more offensively based battle that Kuvira came up on top of. We also didn't see enough of Yun in the novels to be in the top 3. Although if he was, he would probably be qualifying for this list based off of his feats. It's just we haven't seen him in a lot of scenarios where he's doing offensive stuff. It's more like technical stuff that he does in the book and really cool feats that he does that are that other people can't quite do, but he does. The reason why Kyoshi qualifies is because Kyoshi is basically just a weapon of mass destruction. Bumi and Kuvira are both very good with the positional aspects of battle, manipulating movements of others, and just getting an edge by having people do what they want them to do, basically, in the battle. For Airbenders, at least to me, it's clear that Aang qualifies here, Tenzin qualifies, and also Zahir are the 3 best in their field. Yang Chen isn't really an offensive bender. Zahir's whole bending repertoire is based on offense. And we both know Aang and Tenzin's skill level in airbending, that, they use their defense a lot to counter other people, as airbending is more of a defensive element, but you can counter well off of airbending defense tactics. For firebenders, I would go for Azula, Iroh, Zuko, and Ozai in this list. I would only say firebending has 4 people on this list because it's the most offensive element. There's the most people to choose from who are offensive benders. I think that there's also not much shown of people like Avatar 1 or Avatar Roku. There's just not enough. We see them do certain feats that are pretty cool, but it's just not shown how Roku, handles a battle, how he attacks. I think Azula shows a lot of desire in her offense, much like Ozai, where that's like probably their biggest asset, just their want to win a battle, their competitiveness, their competitive streak, how they come into the battle wanting to absolutely decimate their opponent. Iroh, on the other hand, shows a crafty and offensive repertoire, and Zuko is kind of in the middle of both. So they have their own offensive styles where they are using their personalities in order to dictate how they approach a battle, which is a very cool detail added in ATLA and TLOK, where it's their personalities really dictating how they fight. This really applies to Zahir, where he uses personality to basically dictate how he does in battle. It happens with Amon too, where it's like Amon's not really an offensive bender, which is why for waterbenders only Tonraq and Katara would qualify, and not someone like Amon, where he's more of like a guy who waits for his gang of lieutenants to basically help him in a battle, and he uses more so his martial arts techniques to kind of create counter offenses but I wouldn't overall put him above Tonrock or Katara's offense. Most of Unalaq's bending, again, was defensive, much like Amon, although Amon is probably better than Unalaq is in terms of offense. I wouldn't also put Korra here because Korra's strongest element, in my opinion, wasn't even water. It was probably something like fire. Uh, she just seemed like a bender who really liked playing with fire, basically, and that was definitely her strongest element. And Korra in Avatar State probably would be here, but I'm excluding Avatar State from this list. Paku as well. He was close to qualifying, but he's more so a defensive bender again to qualify. He does show very good attack setups against the fight with Katara in season 1 of ATLA, but that's a very elementary version of Katara where her defense just wasn't good enough to cope with that offense. Where it's not even the best offense we've seen. We saw people like Tonrock do a much more advanced version of what Paku did in that battle, where it's like the water side slide, where Paku gets he finesses around Katara and wins the battle like that, but then Tonrock gets countered by Unalaq's even better defense. Kuruk isn't shown to do many actions to qualify, although if he was, he probably would have, by the way. So more information is needed on Kuruk, in my opinion, than beating just Father Glowworm or never losing a duel, much like someone like Ozai, who is never documented, at least, to lose a duel. In order to rank Kuruk high, I would have preferred a more detailed account of him, much like we have of Kyoshi, where we see her adventures, like something like a novel, where it's just, outlining what Kuruk did. If we got novels of Kuruk, his adventures, and what he did, then I would be more inclined to include him in this list and probably rank him pretty high. Off the bat, eliminating people like Tonrock and Zahir are the rational decisions, because in the show, they get beaten by other characters' defense, i.e. Unalaq and Tenzin, who are already on this list. Although both Tonrock and Zahir have great prowess in battle, they get countered too much, exploited in positioning, and they have never dominated an exchange in the show. Kaya Zahir was pretty competitive, Zahir had the edge in how many shots they landed, like 3-2, off my recollection. Zahir got bested by Tenzin. Tonrock lost to the Red Lotus, although that wasn't really his fault, and also lost to Unalaq very narrowly. They lost these battles due to defensive counters, and for that reason Zahir goes 12th, and Tonrock goes just above Zahir, and he makes 11th on my list. In 10th, I will go Bumi. Beating NPC fire guards to take a whole city over by himself in a coffin for half of the time is very impressive. I'm not underrating that accomplishment, but he is basically against NPCs there. They're not really meant to be competitive. They didn't really show any defense or offense against Bumi, and just because Bumi is just too good for NPC fire guards, obviously. But I would also argue that Bumi, apart from that, doesn't really show much or as much as characters above him. I think Bumi did very well in most engagements he had in the series, but his feats, apart from taking Omashu by himself, isn't. Of course, he also had that play fight kind of thing with Aang. I guess that ended in kind of like a 50-50, where both of them would be crushed by his, massive stone over Aang's head, but I wouldn't really count that as like an offensive counter because he would just get destroyed, and Aang's probably even fast enough to avoid that rock, in all honesty. It does sound like I'm discounting him. He's very smart in battle, very shrewd, very versatile, but characters above him have done more in my opinion. In 9th, Kuvira qualifies just above Tonrock and Bumi due to her feats. She beat a very skilled offensive bender in Suyin in battle. She was extremely competitive against Korra in battle for a long time and prolonged it. She had good moments and exchanges in their battle, hurt Korra multiple times badly in their fight, especially in that mech thing. However, I do think Kuvira gets countered too much. Korra's not even the most skilled defensive bender at all. She's actually probably below average for an Avatar in defensive bending, but she got countered a lot by Korra in that. And keep in mind that Korra wasn't even full strength, her getting poisoned from Zahir, all those bad memories, they were still looming in her mind, and you see that in the battle where she has to get saved by the airbenders and the tornadoes and stuff. You saw her just collapse basically on the floor just because she's not at full strength even at the end of the series. And as well as that, I think Kavira also isn't dominant enough. You do see Kavira in her fight against Korra. Even though she has good movements, she also has bad ones. And although Korra is an avatar, she wasn't even in avatar state the whole time during that battle, or even most of the battle. And even then, it was a struggle some of the time. If Kavira had better offense, she could have beat some of the good defense Korra was showing in that fight, but she didn't. So I would have to only rank her 9th on this list. In 8th, Katara enters the list. Short explanation here. The reason's because Katara is, although a savage bender, I think she's more defense orientated. She really addressed that weakness from season 1 against Pakku. She became a more defensive bender. Not to say her offense is bad, but in fights against Zuko and Azula in the cave, in the crystal cave, the green cave, in that cave, her and Aang, the Avatar and one of the best waterbenders, get outmatched by 2 firebenders. I just don't think that should be happening. She gets edged and Aang in the cave battle against Azula and Zuko, and I thought if she was better at offense, she would have gained an edge on one of them, helped Aang out, and won that battle. And that's also why I'm putting Aang in 7th on my list for offensive benders. His baseline offense isn't enough against Ozai in the final battle, where he needed his avatar state to gain the edge offensively. He wasn't good enough with his bending to hurt Ozai at all. When he went into his avatar state, that's when he started really doing well with his offense. Aang has above average offense, but not good enough to even compete with someone like Ozai. He just got mauled, and all for Aang's good defense. I mean, he was avoiding most shots, but he got hurt, and he got lucky with the avatar state. Aang is very good at countering, extremely good at countering shots, but his base offense, like saying, okay, let's dominate a battle with my offense, absolutely destroy people without using avatar state. It's hard to pinpoint a place in the show where he did that. I can think of places where he was extremely destructive when he went into avatar state against Ozai, when he lost Appa. But these are all when he's avatar state, which I'm including for the sake of having it be even against people on this list. At number 6, Tenzin enters this list. His ability to fight off 3 benders with slick defense and even smooth their offense is great. In the fight against Zahir, what's so underrated about Tenzin's offense is his ability to take his time in picking his shots, which he landed for the most part, actually. His defense is better than his offense, in my opinion, and airbending is also generally a defensive element in the show, across both, and even in the novels too. I mean, Yang Chen's shown being a defensive bender numerous times. So it's generally hard to rank him above firebenders and an avatar who's basically renowned for her destruction. Although, as for airbenders, Tenzin's basically the best you can get where on offense. Tenzin's basically the best you can get on offense because he's just so good. He's just so skilled at the element because that's his only element. So he's just ridiculous at offense and defense as an airbender. At number 5, Zuko enters the fold. His offense is good enough to stun Ozai at his capability, where he translates a great defensive counter into a great offensive play. This, in my opinion, the lightning counter, that is one of the most impressive feats of not only defense but offense in the series. Zuko, however, does get bested early in the show and midway through the show against Aang and Azula multiple times. However, I don't think the final battle, the final Agni Kai against Azula, was a fluke, where through great defense and even greater offense, Zuko forced the 50-50 outcome in the blimp battle, where they had both somehow fell into an abyss, but somehow miraculously both survived. He also beat Azula in the final battle just because he improved so much throughout the series. He beat her fair and square, and although I would say Azula wasn't at the top of her game or at her best, she still came into fight just because she's so ferocious on the offensive end. She uh, she fought well, but Zuko in that battle never even really lost an exchange in the final battle at all. He won every single exchange. His overall improvement across the show, where in season one he'd probably be ranked 11th or 12th, in this list he's now 5th. That's how much he improved from the first season to the last. So that's a great progression over the course of ATLA to improve in the offensive department, and he also improved in the defensive department. That's not the only thing. I think Iroh did a really good job in training his discipline in improving him as an overall bender. Iroh is 4th on my list in my opinion for multiple reasons. Firstly, he teaches Zuko all he knows, and you see the amount Zuko improves over the course of the show, which is basically what I said earlier. 2, he basically never loses a battle and wins pretty much any battle he's ever been in, even though a lot of the time he's outnumbered. 3, he bests and bodies Azula multiple times in the show because he's just more skilled than her, just flat out. His defense is way too good even for her offense, and he knows how to translate his defense into attack. He wastes very little energy, and his technique is smooth. But the reason he's only number 4 is because the ferocity in his offense just isn't there like the top 3 in this list, where he just wants to go out, dominate a battle, just absolutely decimate and destroy his opponent. He doesn't have that. Maybe in his general days he did, but not really anymore. In 3rd place, we have Zula ending up here. Going off what I said about Iroh, her offense gets bested by his defense, but only when facing one of the greatest defensive benders we've ever seen. That's no surprise. Her sheer desire and ferocity in attack is what sets her apart from Iroh in attack. Although Azula's skills are arguably slightly worse to Iroh's on offense as well, Azula's just ridiculously good at instilling fear in her opponents, making them think that they will lose, and lose terribly. Her training at the Royal Firebending Academy for Girls also helped her develop her bending skills on the offensive end. Fire, also naturally being an offensive element in the show, serves her well. The only time we see her bested in the show is against Iroh, what I said, one of the best defensive benders we'd ever seen, Aang, the Avatar, and also one of the best defensive benders we'd ever seen, and Superhuman Zuko when she was mentally shot, basically. For that reason, Azula is 3rd on my list. In 2nd place, Kyoshi gets on this list because there's never been in the novels anyone to really best her in battle offensively. Spoiler warning here, although against Yoon it was a major struggle, Yoon is described to do feats no other earthbender has ever done. And it is even argued, and I think true, that he is one of the best earthbenders ever. But with that being said, so is Kyoshi. The ferocity of some of her battles is insane. Her strength battle against Jianzhu was one for the ages. She separated one body of land into 2 whole separate islands. She moved the seas, basically, and that's just what I remember off the top of my head. Her feats and sheer difficulty of battles she was in, that she came out on top were mostly to do with her elite offenses. And that's basically all the major reasons why she's number 2 on my list. And number 1, it's expected, Ozai. The only time he was bested or lost in exchange was the Lightning Retaliation, which is up there with the top feats in Avatar ever by Zuko. And Aang's Avatar state, which is known to be Avatar's version of like Super Saiyan God X, whatever the Goku verse people use or whatever. Completely, just by far the most destructive and crazy Avatar state that there is, Aang's. Somehow his is just genetically powerful, like ridiculously powerful. It doesn't even make any sense. In simple terms, basically the greatest feat pulled off in both shows is Aang's Avatar state. And beside from that point, if we go off of the fables, if we go off fables where they talk about Ozai, much like Kyoshi or Kuruk, who Kuruk would also probably be in the top 3 here above Azula if we had more information on Kuruk, but he just doesn't have enough information. They're basically, all of Ozai, Kyoshi, and Kuruk are just shown to just dominate, destruct, decimate just because how good they are offensively. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. And it's me, the Avatar Fanatic out.